Hi guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Keychron K2 Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. I know I can read, that's great. Now, this keyboard is a mechanical keyboard that uses Keychron switches. The one that I've got in front of me is the RGB aluminium frame brown switch variant. You can find different variants on Keychron's website, and they range from around $69 up to $89, which is really affordable if you think about what you're getting. Links will be down in the description below in case you're interested. Now, in terms of what you get in the box, you've got the keyboard itself, a relatively 2 meter long-ish USB Type-C to USB Type-A cable, which is used for using the keyboard in a wired state. But as I said before, it is a Bluetooth keyboard, so it can be used wirelessly as well. And you've got some extra keycaps which are made for Mac and or Windows, so depending on which way you get it in the box, and also escape and illumination key, which are colored in orange, which you can see are currently installed. There's also a little key puller which is useful for cleaning and also, of course, changing the keycaps. Now let's talk about the build quality and design of the keyboard. First of all, you will definitely notice that this keyboard has kind of like a retro look. It's got this off grey type of look in the middle, whilst the lighter grey is around the sides. And of course I've added a splash of colour with these two little keycaps on the side. However, other than that, it does really look a little bit retro-ish, which is great. And of course you can change all the keycaps to your heart's content. So the fact that you can customize that, given that these keys use the Cherry MX stem, means that it's very easy to replace. Now, in terms of the build quality, as I said before, this is the aluminium frame variant, which means there's absolutely no keyboard flex whatsoever. You can bash, you can type as hard as you want, and in all honesty, you're never going to notice any sort of keyboard flex. Better still, there's no sort of ping back type of noise that occurs when you're typing. If you're typing really heavily, there's no like little boingy type of sound which occurs. That's happened sometimes on certain keyboards, specifically from manufacturers, let's say from Logitech or Razer or SteelSeries, at which point it does take away from the overall feel of it, no matter the frame that they've used. Now, speaking about the frame is metal on the sides, at least as I said, this model, but on the back it's all plastic. So that's a little bit of a shame, but it does shed some weight. In terms of overall weight, this aluminium keyboard is 985 grams, whilst the plastic variant is 875 grams, so worth bearing in mind. Full specs will be down in the description below, at least on Keychron's website, so do check those out in case you're interested to find out a little bit more. Now, other than that, on the left hand side there is a port, which is a USB Type-C port, which is used for connecting up to your PC via wired mode. There's also a Mac/Windows switch, which is great for having different type of devices, and then there's the Bluetooth toggle on and off. Now my camera is going to struggle to pick this all up, but nevertheless they are there. They're on the side over here. There's nothing else to note. There's no USB pass-through or audio pass-through to mention over here, so worth bearing in mind. If you do want that, then you might need to look elsewhere. Now, the USB Type-C connector connects in from the left-hand side, and I like the fact it's a right-angled jack. It's not a normal straight-line jack, so it looks a little bit cleaner. However, I would have preferred it being on the right-hand side, given that most people's PCs are going to be positioned on the right-hand side. But nevertheless, that is the case. Now, as soon as you power on the keyboard, that's going to come with different illuminations. And in terms of illuminations that you get, you've got plenty. In terms of toggling through them, you toggle through them at the top right-hand side, but let alone that, there are also different modes that you can get per section, if that makes sense. So for example, when you've got single illumination, you can toggle through the different colors there. So in terms of customization, I love it, and more so, I love the fact that this is all hardware based. There's no software attached to it. So the beauty of this is the fact that if you were to set your key color, or let's say your mode, for example this RGB kind of mode over here, then you were to take it to another PC, it would save it on the keyboard, where you don't really need to have a software to enable that. Now, some people might be like, oh, but then I don't get any macros and things. There are third-party programs that you could use on your computer in order to facilitate that. So honestly, I really like what this has been done by Keychron, and the M2 keyboard does really feel quite nice to be moving away from that software. Now moving on from that, let's talk about the keycaps themselves. Now the keycaps, as I said before, they have got a Cherry MX stem. Now the beauty of the keycaps is the fact that you can change all the keycaps to your heart's content. You can customize them or whatever have you. They're built out of plastic ABS material, which isn't bad. However, I would have liked double shot ABS, or let's say PBT keycaps, but in comparison to most of its competitors, such as let's say the big name brands, this keyboard's keycaps actually feel a lot better, not only in terms of weight but just in terms of how they're built. So I must say thumbs up from me in terms of how the keycaps are. In terms of the switches themselves, the model I've got in front of me is the brown Keychron switch model. There are 3 models you can choose from. That is the blue, red and brown switch variant. And as I said, this is the brown switch variant. Now, you can choose through the website as to which model will suit you best. And there's a little table on their website which actually showcases what this actually means in sort of a real world. One's clicky, one isn't. Now, if you're not sure about mechanical switches, you can also watch my video down in the description below, which I go through a variety of different switches. But in a nutshell, red is linear, so therefore will feel a little bit better for FPS gamers out there. Brown is kind of the mid-ground for people who like typing and gaming, whilst blue is very loud and therefore can be used as kind of like seen as the typewriter type of switch. Now, in terms of giving you a demo, I'm going to go and type on the keyboard as well, but before I do so, I just wanted a little close-up of the switch there so you can see it in its kind of full glory. Anyway, nevertheless, let's just put in the keycap and then plug it into my PC and then use it over wired mode. And then don't worry, I will comment about its wireless performance as well. So on the left-hand side, I've got a Cherry MX Brown on a key switch tester. So I'm going to go quiet and type on that, and then after that, or press that, and then go onto the Keychron Brown switch, which is on the K2. So that's a little quick sound demo of how it sounds. Personally, I think it's a little bit loud for my liking. However, it does have this kind of nice sort of sound at the back, which means that it kind of subdues the sound when the key switch is actually actuated. It sounds a little bit trivial over here, but people who like keyboards will probably appreciate that sort of comment. Now, the actual key switches themselves, in terms of performance-wise, I used it for about a week as my daily driver, and that was quite hard to do because I really love my own keyboard. And what I found is that for typing and for gaming, I had absolutely no issues whatsoever. You know, pressing WSD in first-person shooter games and also then typing quite a lot of words per day, I had no issues at all in terms of latency, the key switches actually registering, or the actual feel of the keycaps themselves. One thing that did kind of annoy me was actually the spacebar. The spacebar feels a tad mushy, and the reason behind that is because it's got no sort of spacers underneath it. It's just one single key switch, which does mean that if you do press it on the left hand side, which is normally what I do when it comes to typing, I do find that it doesn't, not to say it doesn't register, it just feels a little bit different from the actual switches. You can probably even hear it, so I'll just go quiet. It just sounds different and also feels different. I can't stress it enough. Another thing that I didn't quite like was also the layout of the keyboard. It's used the US type of layout, and there's no sort of customization in that respect. In other words, there's a small enter key and a large shift key, and a US sort of layout at the top over here. Even then, I would have, it's not a massive thing, but it's something that can annoy people who are like international customers, like for example myself, living in the UK. Now finally, let's talk about the Bluetooth connectivity. There's 3 separate devices that you can connect up to this keyboard, which is fantastic because you can switch between them really quickly. In terms of latency, I had no issues whatsoever. In terms of range, I went around 10 to 15 meters through walls, which is the normal test I do for headphones, and I had again no issues whatsoever for my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus picking up the keyboard. It also paired very instantaneously and again picked it up as an input device. So in terms of Bluetooth connectivity, it was great, and in terms of wired connectivity, which is what I usually used it on, I found again no problems whatsoever. So ultimately, what do I think about this keyboard? Well, I think for the price, it's a great addition. Imports and custom fees might make that recommendation kind of go away. I'm not really sure. Let me know in the comments below what you find in your country and region. But at its price of either $69 for the basic variant or $89 for the whole, shebang that you see in front of you, then I would absolutely recommend it. I think you'll struggle to find a better built and sort of performing and functionality in terms of a keyboard than the K2 that we've got in front of us. So there we go, guys. That's been my honest, unbiased, unpaid review. If you like that, make sure you give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, favorite and share to let your friends and family know. All right, guys, I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care and bye-bye.